Okay, I think that I am live, running a little bit late, but here we go. So today I don't see any questions in here. I will check in just a second, but I want to talk about toxins and the thyroid and blood sugar. We're always bringing all of these things together and how important it is to be watching these things. We don't pay much attention to the toxins in our environment, and we don't think about how it affects our body systems. But if you are already out of blood sugar balance, you know that by blood work or maybe how you feel after your meals. If you get that hangry moment, things like that, or from blood work, or your thyroid, maybe you feel sluggish, maybe you don't know if it's a thyroid thing or not. And maybe we need to talk a little bit more about that as well. So one of the things that we need to look at when we're talking about toxins is what all is in your environment? What are you being exposed to? I talk about this all the time, right? We're exposed to all these chemicals that didn't exist when man was first here on Earth, right? He had clean air. Humans. Humans had clean water, had clean air. They picked and ate very fresh food, but they did die from infections and unsanitary conditions and things like that. So we don't hear about people dying from those things anymore. Our bodies have this innate immune system where they detect different things. We have this microbiome, we have bacteria and virus, archaea, these things inside our body that are supposed to be in there. We were taught when we were little, germs are bad, but no, we need those things, right? And our body's made to detect when we are encountering those pathogens, the things that aren't supposed to be there. And so it fends those things off. It creates inflammation, increases blood flow to the area, and fights all those different things. Now we have all these man-made chemicals. We have dirty water. We have chemicals in our water. We have fluoride in our water. So where you are on the fluoride fence, it's hard to do research. I was trying to do research on that, and when you Google fluoride and different things, nothing comes up. How can there be no studies on fluoride when there's studies on all the other chemicals? It's very interesting, correct? But whenever we have too much fluoride, it prevents iodine from being taken into your body, and you need iodine for your thyroid, which affects every cell in your body. The thyroid hormones, we hear T3 and T4. If you're in the thyroid world, if you're not in the thyroid world, you've probably never heard of T3 and T4. That the thyroid hormones are either T3 or T4. It's actually T2 and T2, and you make T3 and T4. But those numbers are how many iodines are on that molecule. And so that's how important iodine is. Now, you can get too much iodine, but when you have fluoride, fluoride keeps you from taking in iodine. And so if we're drinking water that has fluoride in it, we're using mouthwash with fluoride. We're brushing our teeth with fluoride. We're getting a fluoride treatment at the dentist. You can see where I'm going here. That is a major contributor. That didn't exist a long time ago. And fluoride is one of those things that was a byproduct, chemical byproduct at the end of the war. They didn't know what to do with it, and somehow they convinced the government to put it in our water to clean our water. But chlorine, the same thing, can block the same thing. So if you are an avid swimmer, you swim in a pool with chlorine, that's blocking your thyroid from getting the iodine that it needs. And so you want to make sure that you're looking into things like that. So that's just one example of these different chemicals and how they can affect us. One of the things, a lot of times people eat packaged breads, muffins, bagels, things like that. So if you do, and I hope you don't, but if you do, and you read the ingredients and it has bromide or bromine, same thing, it's blocking you from getting the iodine. So don't eat it anyway, but if you do, that's one of the things that you need to be looking for. So other things we need to be looking at are those chemicals that weren't existing before, air fresheners, that stinky bus, you're stuck behind in traffic, gas fumes, you're filling up your car, you're smelling those fumes. Those chemicals you're smelling and they're hitting your brain. We don't think about that, but that smell is a chemical. That's how close it's getting to our brain. We don't have those filters that protect our brain. It's going straight to it. So we want to be really careful about those harmful fumes. Air fresheners, cheap body sprays, fragrances in your shampoo, your conditioner. Someone say, oh, your hair smells so good. Well, what fragrances were used for that? Your body lotions, body products, coatings on our pots and pans. Those things get into our food and then we consume them. And then chemicals that are released from plastic bottles, plastic water pipes. You can see we are completely bombarded by toxins all the time. So certain toxins can also disrupt our blood sugar balance. When we are exposed to these toxins, it creates inflammation in the body. Remember I said our body is supposed to recognize viruses, bacteria, different things like that, parts of the microbiome. These chemicals are new. So when the body detects these things, it goes, what the heck is this? And if it doesn't know what to do with it, it wraps it up in mucus because it's like, oh, this might be dangerous. I need to coat it and protect us until I figure out what it is and how to handle it. And so that's when we start creating things like fatty liver. But it creates inflammation. And whenever we have inflammation, cortisol goes up. And whenever cortisol goes up, blood sugar goes up. So a lot of times we're exposed to these environmental toxins, and that's strongly related not only to the thyroid, but also to our blood sugar. So we have to be really careful about these things. So beyond those, it can affect autoimmune. If I am being exposed to some foreign object, it's creating inflammation in my body. It could be creating inflammation in my gut. And just like my example I always give, if I get up and bang my knee in the morning, the next day, I'm probably fine, right? Get up and bang my knee again the next day, though, it's going to be kind of red. Get up and bang my knee again the next day, it's going to be purple. And I get up the next day and bang it again, it probably breaks open the skin. If I keep exposing myself to toxins, which could be inflammatory foods, it could be foods that you're sensitive to, foods you have allergies to that maybe you don't even know you have allergies to. Maybe you didn't know that your shoulder is hurting you because you're eating gluten. People think gluten is related to celiac, which it is, and that's a stomach thing. Well, celiac disease is something in my family. I don't have stomach conditions, but I do get body pains. And I also had autoimmune. And I didn't know that that was related to the gluten. I have clients who their shoulder pain, when we removed the gluten, the shoulder pain went away. And so that's how closely tied some of these things are related to us. So where was I going with that? So that is creating inflammation in the intestines, which creates leaky gut, also known as intestinal permeability. When we have leaky gut or intestinal permeability, permeable, things get through that aren't supposed to be there. So if I have a tear, just like I had that knee, that cut knee, if I'm exposed to something with that cut knee, some kind of chemical or germ or whatever, right, it gets into my bloodstream. Same thing, leaky gut. If I have those toxins, they can get through into my bloodstream through my leaky gut. It's not supposed to. The food is supposed to be absorbed in certain ways and only the foods and the molecules that we need, right? But when those things get through, it's like, whoa, this is not in an environment that it's supposed to be in. Nothing's supposed to get through over here. And so we start shooting at it. Our body goes, what does this look the most like? And so it's trying to figure out, what is this? It's foreign. We've got to do something with it. And it starts to attack it. Well, a lot of times it looks like something else in the body. Gluten molecules most likely look like the thyroid. Dairy molecules can also look like the thyroid. And so it starts shooting those things and it accidentally starts shooting your body parts too, which leads to autoimmune conditions. And so these are just some of the reasons why we need to be really careful about all the toxins we're exposed to, but we also need to cleanse. Remember I said, when the body doesn't know what it is and it's not sure if it can pass it through or not, it wraps it up in mucus. If we're exposed to some harmful chemical, it goes, this might hurt us. We better coat it and hold it tight, stuff it in the liver. Think of fatty liver disease, one of the fastest growing conditions right now, until we have time to get to it. But while it's trying to come up with the time to work on it, you're being exposed to more water, dirty air, more perfumes. How do you take a break and get away from those things? Unfortunately, we can't. It doesn't mean we're all doomed. We can find ways to cut down on all of our toxins, but it's really important to take time out and focus on cleansing our body. Unfortunately, we do live in a time where we've got to cleanse those things out. We've got to really, really do our own due diligence in examining our environment and getting rid of things. Some of those things are BPA. or bisphenol A, which is found in plastics. It's found in food can linings. Did you ever think of that? Some of you, and especially my group, you have, but inside of the cans are lined with plastic. So if I'm scooping something out of the can and I'm scraping the side, I'm picking up more plastic. And so if you do have to use a can, don't scrape the sides. Cash register receipts is one of the ways most people are absorbing their plastic. So anytime you can just say, no, I don't need a receipt, that's going to be the best for you. But if you're handling a lot of receipts, I have a job where I work as a bookkeeper and I handle lots and lots and lots of receipts. Maybe I need to be wearing gloves, or maybe I need to find another way instead of handling receipts. BPA mimics estrogen. Have you ever heard of estrogen dominance? I bet many of you have. That leads to a whole nother slew of health issues, reproductive problems, hormonal imbalances, and things like that. So that's just one other chemical. What about phthalates? So these are chemicals that are used in the production of plastics, found in a lot of our cosmetics. If you look at your lotion or your shampoo or your conditioner, any of those things, phthalates occurs quite often. It's also in fragrances. And so you want to make sure that you're not buying things that say phthalates. It starts with P, PTH. PHTH, phthalates. So phthalates disrupt our hormone signaling, and they are strongly associated with fertility issues and developmental problems. So think about how many children, they just love to go to Bath and Body Works, but we need to make sure that they are paying close attention to those chemicals. They're lots of fun. That strawberry smell. I remember as a kid, we had strawberry shortcake and I loved that. So how many things was I exposed to, as a kid? Dioxins. So these are highly toxic compounds that are released through industry. They also disrupt the endocrine system. So what is your endocrine system? Well, your thyroid's a part of your endocrine system. Your kidneys, your adrenals. We have all these different organs that are being affected by these chemicals. And so we need to pay attention to those. They're linked to cancer. They're linked to developmental issues. They're linked to immune system problems. And we have, I don't know how to say the word, perchlorates. They're found in fertilizers, disinfectants, even fireworks. So these can interfere with your thyroid's ability to take up iodine, which leads to iodine dysfunction. So once again, remember I said your thyroid hormones are made from iodine, tyrosine and iodine. That's the T, and the 2 or the 3 or the 4. And so we want to make sure that we're not disrupting the body from getting those things. And then there's so many other things like pesticides. That's one of the reasons why we want to buy organic as much as possible. Growing your own is absolutely the best. Getting from a local farmer that and their growing processes, they're not using fertilizers, even some organic fertilizers, they still have specific things in them. We want plants that are grown in nourished soil that is full of all the bugs, because all those bugs help to nourish the plants, which help boost our nutrients that we are taking into our body. Things that we need to look for are flame retardants. Did you know there's flame retardants on your furniture, in some of your clothing, and some of your bedding? So those things in our electronics, those things can also disrupt your hormones, your thyroid hormones specifically, and they can even affect your brain. And then heavy metals, we hear about heavy metals like lead and cadmium and mercury. And so learning about, your dental work, how much mercury have you been exposed to? How safe is the mercury in your body? And you can Google more about that as well. But there's so many more sunscreens. I've mentioned the pesticides. Look at the EWG website. They talk about the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. So if you can't really afford a lot of organic, or they're difficult to find, look for the Clean 15. Those are the things that are less exposed or less likely to be found to have as many chemicals on them. That's going to be better. You can use apps like the Think Dirty app. It's just Think Dirty. It's a free app. You can scan your products and it will tell you why they're green, red, or yellow. They're good, maybe not so good, and they'll tell you why, what chemicals are in there. And so that's a great thing to look for. And do a cleanse or a detox at least once a year. I prefer twice a year. Jennifer Swank and I, we are the Gen twins, and we love, love, love to do a cleanse twice a year. And we offer this to help you. We lead people through a gentle 14-day cleanse that we walk you through using foods. So we use foods. We don't do the Epsom salt thing where you feel like you're going to throw up all day. We find a gentle way to help you cleanse over the 14 days. And then we even offer a 5-day reset afterwards for those of you who want to go on beyond that to help lead you into a healthier way of eating. During our 14-day cleanse, though, we make sure that we give you meal plans and foods that nourish the body. We give you lots of tips and tricks to help to cleanse the body as well. Because when we are toxic, not only may our thyroid be out of balance, our blood sugar be out of balance, we may be really sluggish. We have very low energy. One of the things about the liver cleanse is it can really help you with that. For me, the liver cleanse is really, really a key for my antibodies. When I, especially with autoimmune thyroid, we don't realize how closely tied toxins are to autoimmune thyroid. So being able to release those toxins and even just learning different cleansing techniques. So it's not just the food. We talk about different tools that are completely optional. We talk about teas and herbs and supplements that can also help you. And so what we found is a lot of times people will repeat the cleanse. They'll do the cleanse with us in the spring and in the fall. And every time you cleanse, you can add another tool and you go a little bit deeper and you see so much better results. So one is clearer skin that feels really young and smooth and soft. That's for me. I'm always like, oh, my skin feels so good. And so there are just so many different reasons that we want to cleanse. Number one, we're in this toxic environment. Number two, we want to make sure that we are removing environmental toxins, getting as many toxins away from our body as we can, trying to get back to the way humans were originally. But here we are, exposed to EMFs on the computer. I'm in an air-conditioned home. Heater today is cold today. That is completely insulated. I'm not getting fresh air. And so it's learning different things to help our body, help our entire organ system, and then tools that you can use to help your family as well. So I hope you will join us in our 14-day liver cleanse. It starts October the 23rd. I'll put a link here in the bottom. So before I sign off, let me make sure I didn't have any questions. It seems like I did have somebody send me a question this week. Somebody asked, when's the 14-day liver cleanse? And that's a good one. That's October 23rd. I emailed those of you who are on my mailing list. I emailed it out and forgot to even put a date. Hello. And then I was thinking that there was another question. I'm not seeing it in here. I don't see any in the group. If you have any questions, y'all know I love to hear from you. I love to make sure that I'm giving you the information you want to hear. I am here to serve you. That is my whole purpose and passion in life, is to help you with your health. And so make sure that you're posting questions. I'm letting me know what's helping you, what's not helping you. I love to hear from you. Anyway, I hope you have a fabulous week.